being an agent, I knew then and there, I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't want to change career paths. And, you look at all the older females and you're like, I want to be like them. You see the awards they're getting and you're like, this is an industry where, we can succeed and, maybe we can show like the younger girls out there that we can do things like this and we can do really well.
Welcome to The Lowdown. We're here to have a chat today with Flora and with Lilli. One thing about real estate is that it does tend towards, sort of older people in terms of the age group of real estate agents. And today we're talking to two very, very much at the younger end of the scale for real estate, both in their 20s. And I'm just really keen to, chat to you guys about what how you fell into real estate, how you've been finding it, and maybe we could just start with your background. What were you guys doing before real estate?
So before real estate, I was studying at Vic Uni. So I've been in Wellington my whole life. Studying at Vic Uni, classics and philosophy. So very, very different. Getting to the end of that and kind of realising that I wasn't going to easily fall into a job with that kind of background. At the same time, my mum had just sold our family home and was looking for a new house. And she went to 400 open homes before she found her first house. And I went along to most of those with her. So kind of was watching other agents a lot, from lots of different companies.
So you saw how easy it was and you were just like, that's easy, I want to get into that.
No, it was basically, that looks easy, but I think I can actually do it slightly better maybe. Yeah. But that was it. And so I just decided, looked up the course, thought, I'm just going to give it a go. And then found my first sort of placement quite easily. Now I'm been doing it for 5 years. And
amazing. Yeah. It was a cool story. And what about you, Lilli? How did you
gosh, it starts a while back. I went into uni really early. I was quite young. Left high school early. I was a pre-professional dancer for most of my life. Had an injury, so since then, I had to look at different career paths.
So that was your that's where you thought the future was.
But due to quite a major injury.
Yeah, wow. Sorry to hear that.
Had to leave at quite a young age, but while I was at uni, I was also studying interior design. So I have an interior design diploma, then also got into a bit of like home staging work. And then also I've got family, obviously, in real estate. So, they suggested I come and do open homes with you guys.
Yeah, cool.
While I was at uni.
I remember, it was great having you helping us. And, one thing that I noticed about you was just your confidence and the way you hold yourself for your age, even back then, which you were,
very, very young.
Quite young back then. It was impressive, out of all the people we were working with that were younger, you just definitely have a confidence about you, which is probably really helpful in terms of being younger in real estate, I think.
Yeah, it definitely makes you seem a little bit older with the confidence.
So it'd be safe to say you both originally had different thoughts about, if you imagine when you're a teenager and you think about where you might land, would you both say you had no idea? Like this is like completely different than what you ever imagined your future would be?
Yeah,
definitely, absolutely.
Because that's the same for me, right? Like I never could have imagined that, this world was where I would land. It's just funny. It's interesting that, isn't it? It's so true of so many people that fall into real estate. It can be quite random, which is really interesting. And being young. I mean, I was researching before today's chat, and I saw that there's no exact numbers on this, but it appears that the average is somewhere between 45 and 55 years old for a real estate agent, and the speculation is that it's towards the upper end of that. It looks like there is some data on the new applicants being around, the average being around 38. So that means that things are trending younger, which I think is great. So as someone who is in a traditionally older industry, first of all, have you noticed that, and how does it feel to be perhaps on the younger end of things in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, complications that come up where people are always very interested in, how old we are, how much experience, we actually have. But, we kind of not avoid, but we just, slide across with our knowledge and people kind of stop asking those questions.
Yeah, and the confidence that we talked about before is a big part of it, right?
Yeah. The more confident you are in what you know, they don't question it as much. The question's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a bonus being surrounded by people that are, have lots of life experience that we are potentially lacking a little bit. Yeah. Which just means that we're learning so much and, feeding off everyone else's knowledge, which I think is incredible, and being at an agency where there are lots of agents who are happy to share their knowledge and teach and things, and then we can learn stuff quite quickly.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I was 20 when I got my license, and I started selling at 21, which for back then would have been even more unusual, I think, than it is today. But I feel like I really benefited from the length that, when you're in a career for 25 years, you're constantly growing every year. So you scale your career from the younger you start your career, the longer you can scale it for, if that makes sense, So you really make it a career quicker and kind of build on it. And I think it can take you further if you start younger. So I think that'll be a real edge for you guys going forward. And what about, another interesting thing is that, I think this is a real positive of real estate. I think that perhaps the fact that its average is older perhaps is less positive than this, but it is a very equal industry in terms of female male. Had you guys noticed that, just out of interest? Have you ever even thought of that? Does it even come into your consciousness that real estate is an industry where women succeed and do really well, and there's kind of, in my view of it, there's really no pressure on women, like kind of, what would you call it, like I don't know, no patriarchy, sort of dominant sort of thing at all. In fact, it can almost the opposite to some extent.
Well, we found it's definitely the opposite sometimes. We have situations where, you can feel that clients are actually more comfortable around women, so it kind of makes it slightly easy for us to slip in. And I guess it's a massive bonus because not many places are like that, being a woman.
We've got so many females at this company.
It's great.
Insane,
I know, we're really proud of that. I mean, I think it's leans well over 60% female out of 65 people or 70 odd people in the Wellington office. And have you ever does that sort of empower you? You sort of feel like excited about that you guys can make something of this? And I guess it leads to another question I've got, which is, what's your long-term goals with real estate? Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning going, in 5 years I could be doing this, and in 10 years this, and how do you think about the future?
When I sort of started real estate, it was a decision for me that was going to be the career for the rest of my life. It was, within the first few weeks, everyone said, it's tricky starting out, but don't give up. And I'm 5 years in now and know for sure that this will be me for the rest of my life. And one of the things that made me certain on that was looking at the older female agents at Lowe & Co, seeing where they are in their lives, how successful they are, and thinking, that's going to be me. And because I'm starting at such a young age, I'm going to have, this knowledge from early on, and then being able to just continue to work on things year after year after year.
Cool.
That's kind of where I see myself.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Like, even when I started doing open homes for you guys before even, being an agent, I knew then and there, I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't want to change career paths. And, you look at all the older females and you're like, I want to be like them. You see the awards they're getting and you're like, this is an industry where, we can succeed and, maybe we can show like the younger girls out there that we can do things like this and we can do really well.
Cool. And, it's a funny... I think in terms of like people building families over time too, it is a job which does have, I'm not going to call it flexible because we all know, you guys would laugh at that, this sort of flexibility is kind of a mirage in real estate, but it does allow you to build your day around things like childcare and like, you can do a family, and many successful agents have had families in the middle of their career and kept going, and for motivated individuals it's great like that, right?
And just on that, being part of a team, our smaller team and also the wider Lowe & Co team, when you do decide that you want to take time off for any reason and, family reasons as well, then you've got so much support so that that things can be looked after until you're ready to jump back into it. So I think that's really important as well.
We have a family first philosophy, right? So, and that's super important to have that support. So what do you love about, clearly, you must love something because you're saying you want to make it a lifetime career, but what are the things about it that really capture your heart?
Yeah, milestones are a huge thing. Like when you hit specific milestones with like how many properties maybe you've done in a year, it's a great feeling. And then you kind of aim towards, higher things every year. You've always got something to work on and look forward to.
So goals and progress.
Yeah.
And also, milestones like for myself, but also for clients. You know, being in those massive life moments, being involved in that is very special, and it's extremely rewarding being a part of that. That's something I love, and the fact that every single day is completely different. You know, you're going to come in and you're going to see new properties, meet new people. It's constantly changing. So it's something that I think would be extremely hard to get bored in this job.
I love how you guys both said that. The gratification is not obvious from the outside. And, we're not out there saving lives at the end of the day, right? But at the same time, people wouldn't probably have a window into... I mean, I had a grown man in tears the other day over the result on his house. And it was just the most incredible, just watching this guy just break down. It was amazing, So the gratification you get when the result's incredible and everyone is, and then you deal with people with terminal cancer and things that massive things in their lives that you get to come in and solve a problem. And then when that goes well, that can be incredibly gratifying. And that vicarious experience of people's lives as well. You get to come in as a trusted advisor during these heavy, life-changing moments.
And into their homes as well, which is such a personal space. Great point. Being, allowed to come in and help in those situations, I think it's actually pretty special.
I find first-time buyers also really gratifying. I mean, it is amazing helping people get their first home that they've probably worked years and years and years to even be able to do that. And even if it's not a property they end up getting, they thank you so much for even just helping them through the process. And it's great, knowing that you're helping people learn more about how to put offers in and, to taking care of them.
Totally. Now, we know it's not all fluffy ducks, and the obvious corollary to that question is, what do you hate about it?
I guess...
That's a hard question.
The constant grind, there is... And this is... It's stuff that I love and then also... hate. I hate thinking about doing it, but then when I'm actually out there doing it, I always love it. So for example, the door knocking, which we do almost every day. And it's, I have to get out there, have to go door knocking, have to brace the Wellington wind, all that kind of stuff. But then once you get out there, it's actually not so bad. But it's the constantly on the hunt for the next business. It's tricky.
You wake up every day unemployed, right? So
Exactly.
So you've got that pushing you and driving you always to get out there.
And I think that's something that most people don't understand. When they ask me about real estate, they think it's all luxury and but it's a constant.
Too much TV shows.
Exactly.
TV.
It's a constant grind of calling, door knocking in the horrible weather. Down on your hands and knees, getting keys out of lock boxes, trying to get into houses, all that stuff. It's
also
I'll tell you a key story quickly. I had one of those chain lock boxes, and I had this queue. It was a really popular property. There was a queue of people behind me. There must have been 30 people, and I unlocked it, and the key went straight down the drain. It was below, and I was I couldn't get the drain thing off. And I got but these are the things that happen from time to time. Real estate. Luckily, the owner was 10 minutes away, and just got everyone to wait. And got it sorted, but it's the panic, isn't it?
And having to turn around and tell everyone.
Heart attack.
Sorry, guys, just dropped me down drain.
And so, anything else that you hate about it? That's a good one. That's a really good answer.
The denial. People denying you all the time. It can take. You can do 20 cold calls and everyone's like, nah, can you please stop calling me? We'll probably keep calling you, but you do have to try a few times. There are door knocks that we door knock multiple times on a certain house, and then eventually you do get it. But it is the denial, and you have to come face to face with it and just be okay with it. But it can be hard at the end of the day if you've done all your cold calling and then you go and door knock and everyone said no to you. It is quite hard.
Getting up and doing it again tomorrow.
And you're like, got to do it again.
I always think resilience is one of the key attributes of a good salesperson. You have to get high off the highs, but not too low off the lows. If the lows are like water off a duck's back and the highs are really exciting, then you'll probably succeed. But some people are the opposite. They kind of the buzz is less for them, but then they just can't. The rejection is so strong that they just fall out. So I think that is a key part of a successful agent, is that personality difference.
It's definitely hard when you're first starting as well, and being young, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But then you knock on that one door and they're like, yeah, come on in. And then you're like, oh my gosh.
What about, the complexity of it? Because there's a question for you guys in terms of how you perceived it before you got into it and how you perceived it afterwards in terms of like the compliance, but not just the compliance, just the complexity of real estate deals. Do you think, was it what you expected? Was it less complicated, more complicated?
I feel like you don't realise how complex it is until you're doing the job. And, it's the same thing with people on the outside going, oh, you guys just, stand at an open home and that's about it. And it's like, oh, okay. But once you get into it, you're like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
And it takes, a while to get your head around it. And, the bonus of us being in a team, we can just bounce off each other. So if there is something that we're like unsure about, we just look at each other and sort it out, which is definitely like an absolute bonus. And I'd say like I've learned so much off Flora herself.
Yeah. It's a great point about the the nuances and the grey areas and houses themselves, right? Like are actually complicated things, and everything from the title through to the quality of the building, the compliance that's on us, and how that interplays with the way we interact with the public, and then the transparency between the owner and the agent and the client. The complexity around that is quite significant.
I mean, you have to learn so much about like LIM reports, builders reports. You kind of have to become like a builder in a way, and you have to know absolutely everything about what is in those reports, because you have to be able to on the spot give an answer.
I mean, from what I've noticed, the compliance on us creates a lot more, it can slow productivity down, but I do think that the transparency between the owner and the agent and the client now is significantly better way to do it. I mean, why shouldn't someone know what they're buying, and why shouldn't we know what we're selling? Exactly, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that change has been good overall, but, like all regulation, it's created a lot of inefficiency and a lot of slows everything down a bit.
Yeah. People absolutely love it, providing builders reports, providing LIM reports. They're like, thank you so much. And we're like...
Yeah, that culture's changed a lot. It wasn't like that, when I, 20 years ago, where it was all buyer beware, and people just got their own one. So I agree. I think that's great. What about, just for my interest, like Lowe & Co? I mean, Flora, you have worked for another agency and came to Lowe & Co. How do you think about, I suppose, what does Lowe & Co mean to you?
I think it's the wealth of knowledge that's so incredible. You're constantly surrounded by people that have so much experience, and like you said, every deal we do, you learn something new. You learn a number of new things. And so the people who've been in real estate for 25 years, and we're sitting next to these people, and they're so happy to just share that with you. And so being someone who's younger and you don't have that experience, I think it's there's a lot to say about being surrounded by people that are not only like extremely good at what they do, but really kind and willing to share that, because they want to see all of us younger ones succeed as well. And that's quite rare, because usually there's that competitiveness within agencies, whereas with us it's slightly more, everyone wants everyone to succeed, so there's just that willingness to share.
Awesome.
There's no like internal competition with everyone. Everyone's happy.
A little bit of internal competition.
A bit more friendly.
Friendly competition.
It's just aspirational competition.
Exactly.
Like taking your buyers through other people's properties, and we all work together and everything. And coming from another company to here, you guys had like a great family aspect. Like I felt welcomed as soon as I stepped, through those doors. And the amount of like knowledge and everything that you guys pass on is absolutely insane.
Cool. The other thing that was like really shocking to me actually was the amount of training. Like the training every week was something I'd never experienced.
And great.
You just get thrown a chair and say, off you go do real estate. Whereas here, it's every single week we're working on ourselves. The younger ones, the older ones, all of us agents are trying to better ourselves and be better at the job. I think it's quite rare.
The training, that was a huge bonus. When you mentioned that as an every week thing, I was like, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think it's a credit to the agents and you guys too, the what's working stuff that everyone's doing, where they're getting together and sharing. And I'm really proud of that, because that is, as you point out, the part of the culture is that everyone's lifting each other up,
exactly,
and that lifting people through property is our true north. And to have all of the agents lifting each other up all the time is really consistent with that. So that makes me very proud that you guys mentioned that as a key benefit. And the brand, how does the brand, how do you find that in the marketplace, that does it make a difference?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think, and working for an agency that's, in my view, quite modern is really cool. We're doing stuff like for the podcast, for example. We're sort of taking those steps before a lot of other agencies are. And so that's something that I'm proud to be a part of. Yeah.
Cool. Sort of progressive type nature of it. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And you guys, speaking of, progressive agents, you guys put a lot of effort into social media, which I, love, and I find it very entertaining. I think you guys are doing a great job. I suppose, do you think growing up in the social media age gives you an edge in that space?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I did a bit of social media myself before getting into real estate, did a bit of studying on it as well. And, I came into the team and I was like, right, let's get you guys on the camera and let's just do it. And then we didn't want to be, too, as people say, real estate-y. We didn't want to be too boring. We wanted to add, kind of how our team was and show that, our personalities a bit more, because through photos and everything, you don't know who we are. And people have really enjoyed seeing that side of us, but also, doing a good job for our vendors and buyers.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are doing an amazing job of both those things. And I mean, it says that you find the socials getting traction. Are you getting, because it's funny and it's great. And I think you guys are good at doing it authentically and being having a silly edge to it, which gives you a relatableness, which is great. You've got to be authentic on social media, right? You can't hide.
Yeah. No, I think it's, you don't want to look too pristine, because then you're not particularly relatable. But I think it's having the ability to post something on social media and be able to connect with that many people. And it's so easy. It's actually so easy to, record these videos, upload them, and then get all of these connections that you're not even aware of until someone pops over and says, oh, I saw your video the other day, and that kind of thing. It's, it's still good being in the newspaper or being on a billboard, but the amount of people you can actually reach on social media is incredible. So I think it's the way real estate's progressing, and I think we're going to move more into that. So just trying to sort of stay ahead of the game.
That's a great point. And I just want to say you guys are so well positioned, because what you'll find is, like, as your career builds and you're already getting repeat referral business and you're starting to build a brand and a profile where business is coming to you, what you can find is as your peer group ages, as your career progresses, more people within your network are going to know you guys as the experts and the people to come to for real estate. So it's an exponential growth thing, and I experienced that the same in my career too, is that because I had to learn how to find people that were twice my age to start with. I learned to get good at that, and then as my age group started to become buying and selling houses, I was already had a good personal brand and profile, so I became a natural fit, and that network that I had then started to layer on top of all of the other stuff I'd done. So what you find is your business will scale through time, and it will get bigger just naturally through that whole network. And of course, as you point out, which is more to your point, is that the social media side of it is going to become more and more important as people now who have just been engulfed in that their whole lives come out, they're just not going to be consuming anything else. So therefore the people who are good in that space are just going to have an edge, a real edge. So I think it's an exciting thing for you guys.
It's definitely trying to get ahead of it in New Zealand. Like, I feel like real estate social media in New Zealand isn't as booming as like the States. Like they're getting leads and leads and leads from that, and obviously you want to get to a point of there, but you have to find kind of your niche.
Exactly.
And I think we have found ours. It's just sticking to it,
leveraging it. Yeah, nice. And so sticking on the theme of young people in real estate, do you think more young people should jump into it? Would you say it's a career that young people should consider?
I definitely would. If you've got the drive to do it, I think it's something that, as we mentioned earlier, because of how rewarding it is, it's something that I think people should consider it. And I'm surprised that they don't, actually. I was shocked at the numbers you mentioned earlier.
That's crazy. I mean, starting young, I mean, gosh, the first year is very hard. But, once you can push past that and you figure out, what works for you, because what works for other people might not work for you, especially being younger, you might have to kind of grind a little bit more just to, tell people that you do have the knowledge. But if you can get past that first year, I think go for it.
You almost answered my last question,
there you go.
which is even better one step ahead. But but we'll see if there's any other advice, because that's brilliant advice. What advice would you give to yourself going back to just before you started in real estate?
Mine would be try and go straight to Lowe & Co.
Yeah, mine would be the same. Yeah, probably should have said the yes a little bit faster. Like, definitely, I'd say in the first year, like, something I'd say to myself is keep going. Because, you know, there are a few times where you're like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? Should I be doing something else? And you've got people around you telling you, what are you doing? Like, you're not earning much. You need to go and do it like a 9 to 5. But yeah, just...
There can be some real dips.
Yeah.
That's not all... Yeah, exactly.
Other people's opinions really do. Like, if you're, you know, grinding hard, you're tired, you're not sleeping much because you're trying to get business, and then other people around you are kind of going, what are you doing? It is hard, but if you can, you know, push past that and find what works for you is the best thing.
I think, and mine would probably be, like, don't be afraid. You know, first starting out, picking up the phone, making the calls, going out, doing the door knocking, that kind of thing. It was really scary, especially as a young person. So that would be something that I would want to tell myself is it's not that bad. You know, when even if someone slams the door in your face, it's not that bad. You get over it quite quickly. So
you kind of giggle a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
True. No, that's a great point. It's a great way to deal with that, I think.
Yeah.
And you've got to laugh as well in this game. It's kind of our stress release valve, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I just want to tell you guys before we wrap up how proud I am that you made Lowe & Co your home, how successful you've been, and I think you guys have an incredible future, and it's going to be my pleasure to be involved in that. So thank you. And yeah, we'll wrap up now, but I really appreciate the time to chat.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been great.
Cool. That was the Lowdown. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back at it again next week. Thank you.